Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about creating an invoice and just a straight up invoice, not an estimate or anything like that. So we're going to assume that either an estimate has already been made and established and signed, or a quote, or we're using an outside different software for the estimating. And so we're going to have a hypothetical that we are a landscaping company and it's the middle of the month and we performed a service and sold a product to a customer, which we are going to invoice to them at the beginning of the month. That's going to be due in 30 days. For before creating your first invoices, if this is your first invoice in QuickBooks Online for your new for a new company, there's going to be some settings that you want to make sure that are set up correctly before starting your invoice, and we're going to be going through them now. I forgot to mention too, we're also going to be looking at outside the invoicing some of the new beta features in QuickBooks Online, one being the price rules and another one being the late fees. So we can briefly go over those as well. So the settings that you're gonna want to have set up is going to be, so first if you go into the gearbox here, this is the general settings. We can go into account settings. In this first just general option right here. So in the company settings right here, just a company name, EIN, your logo, things like that. It'd be a good idea to have that information filled out first. So then also too, so I'll set that up first. You also have an options here for QuickBooks payments, which it doesn't show here. I'm just using a sample file here. So if you want to be able to send the invoice and have the capabilities of receiving payment through that, through their debit card or their checking account or credit card, you have to set up those payments first. Since we don't have the capability of doing that, we're going to assume that we're just going to be receiving either cash or check for this invoice. So again, that would be somewhere right here, that option for that. So next, if you go into sales here, we can get into kind of more of the nitty gritty of the specific invoice settings. So the first one's going to be this customized look. We're going to hold off on that for a second, so I can show you where we can do that once we're actually creating the invoice. So the first options we're going to look at are these sales form content options here. You can just click this console here and get started. So the first one's going to be the invoice terms. Keep this at net 30. What that basically means is when we send the invoice at the beginning of the month, they will have 30 days to pay the invoice before being considered late. You can change that to due on receipt the day that you send it, net 15, whatever works for you and your customers. This preferred delivery method, we're gonna add this to send later. You can change this once you're actually creating the invoice. You can also change most of this stuff, but this is just settings to where it would show up as a default. And I'll go more into this as to why we're gonna have this at send later as we move along here. If you want to add shipping to the invoice, this is where you can easily do that. You can add some custom fields here. If you want to add transaction numbers, deposits, tips, discounts, anything like that, we're going to go ahead and put this stuff on just so you at least see the options of where it would be once we're creating the invoice. So we can hit save here. This is if you want specific sales numbers for your products or services. But what we're going to do today is we're going to put on these price rules here so you can at least see and have the idea of what those are and how those work. So we're going to save that. And for the sake of it, we're going to put on the late fees just so you see what those are. We're going to make it a $15 late fee once an invoice and to give it a grace period of a week. And that's going to be tax exempt. So we can go ahead and save that. Next option is progress invoicing. We're not going to be going through this today, but just know it is an option. So this would be if you created an estimate and then you were creating invoices based off of that estimate. But again, we were not going to be doing that today. And I believe so there's options down here in the bottom for the online delivery of how the invoice looks once it's being sent via email and whether or not you want the statements in the bottom. I will go through this later. I wouldn't recommend playing with this too much in this screen because you'll be able to see it better and have a better understanding of what you're actually changing once we go to customize the actual look and feel. So, and that'll make sense as we move along here. One other thing, if you go to the advanced here, I'm just going to put on the location tracking. This isn't going to be for everybody, but just so if you do have that option, you'll know where that'll show up on your invoice. So we can go ahead and save that. And that should be it for this screen. So we can go ahead and hit done. And then once we have the general company set up, the logo, the invoice settings set up to what's agreed upon with you and your customers, the next thing you want to set up would be your taxes if you are selling taxable items. And this is where you can go ahead and set that up, is through this screen right here. But we can go ahead and get started on, I'm sorry, one thing before we get started creating the invoice is we're going to set up a price rule. So the two places we're going to be looking today is going to be in this new section here for creating the invoice. And then we're going to be looking a lot also on the this list here. So if you hit the gear icon, there's this all lists. And a lot of your information in QuickBooks Online is either going to be in your lists or in this new here. There's multiple ways to get to different places, but this is probably the two most straightforward places to find your information. So if you go to lists here, you can see these price rules. So we're going to create a rule. Now with this beta, this is around COVID-19 times here. This is November of 2020 that I'm creating this video. So let's say we're creating a special because times are tough here. And we're going to say that's going to run from the beginning of April until the end of June. It's going to be for all customers, and you can make it so you can make it customer specific. You can select them individually. So these are basically, the price rules are basically specials. So you can make it for products, inventory, non-inventory, and then you can go into and have the specific products and services. We're going to make it for services, and let's say we're going to decrease the percent by 10%. And you can make it a fixed amount, of course, custom, increase, decrease. We're just going to do no rounding here. So the way this works with the invoicing, so it doesn't say very straightforward. Let me need to apply this first. Okay. So it doesn't show very straightforward on the invoice, at least not anything that I've found so far. So let's say, for example, that we create a design, we put a design on the invoice. It's just going to populate at that $67.50. It won't show 75 with the special for $67.50. At least not that I've seen yet. I haven't played around with this too much because this is new. I'd kind of like if it showed the special on there. But as of right now, I think it's just showing up as a $67.50. We can go ahead and save and close this. And then we can go into, I'm going to go and make a duplicate window here. We can go into starting to create creating the invoice, so you have an idea of how that works. And then we can get into a little bit further as we're creating the invoice, these lists and what you should have set up in order to successfully create an invoice. So again, if you missed that, I went to the new here and then invoice under customers. And that's where I got to this new invoice screen. Again, there's multiple ways to get here, but that's probably the most straightforward. So you can either, if you have a customer set up, you can choose them here, or if you wanted to, you can add a new one right here if you wanted to do that. But for this sake, we're just going to choose one. But if this was a new customer, again, you can easily add it here, and then you can go to details, and this is where you can put in as much detail as you would like. The one that you will need will be probably the email. Let's say Cool Cars. Let's say we're doing some landscaping for their property. So right here again, we're going to check the send later, and I'll show you why here in a second, so you can easily look. So if you're creating invoices in the middle of the month to be sent at the beginning of the month, hitting the send later will be. There's an easy way I'll show you once this is created of how to find all those all in one place, so you can send them all in the beginning of the month. So we're going to check that. We're going to keep the terms at net 30, but again, if you wanted to change them, you can do that easily here. So we're going to make the invoice date, which is going to be sent on May 1st, which makes the due date the 31st because of this net 30. And this is a reminder that this right here is a reminder where those late fees will apply. Those will automatically apply a week after this due date. Will be that extra $15 we added on. So then here's where you can choose the location. And again, this is under the, if you go under all lists here, your locations, we don't have any set up now, but if we did, this is how you can add them. So and we can add them also on the invoice if we wanted to do that. let's say we have an east side and a west side, and we wanted to track the invoices based off of that. So we can run reports on different locations. So we're going to make that west side. But again, I just wanted to show you here. So if you did have location set up, this is where you would choose location on your invoice. And then now here we can get down to the products and services, kind of the meat of the invoicing here. So let's say that, so if we hit this down here, we see all of the products and services that are currently set up. If you don't have any of these set up in your QuickBooks Online account yet, again, list here, go into product services, and this is where you can start adding those products and services. You can choose well as inventory, non-inventory service. We can go into detail later about all that. But that is where you would add those, which can be chosen right here on your invoice. And there you can add, of course, the description, the sales price if you want to, whether it's taxable or non-taxable, and then how many you have on hand if you want to do the actual inventory tracking. But for simplicity today, let's just say that we're doing some weekly gardening service. Let's say we charge $50 for that, and we can see here if that design, yes. So as I said before with the special, that design, it just populated here at the $67.50. If you remember back when we made that special, the new created price, it doesn't show explicitly that it is on special, but that price did populate correctly. So since there's no check marks here on this tax, these are both tax exempt, as you can also see here, there's no tax calculated. Let's say that we're selling a product as well. Let's say we're selling some soil. Say we sold 10 bags at $9, $90. And with this check mark here, that is showing that this is taxable. And we'll see that here in a second. Okay, and this is just if you want to have some special messages or on your invoice or statement, you can add those here. Once you have those taxes, again, set up, this is where you can choose that. So let's say this is being sold in California, which calculates that to 8% for that for the soil. If you want to add a discount percent of value, this is where, again, where you can do that. You can do that here just so you can see it changes the balance here. And let's say, again, this is different from the QuickBooks Online system of creating the estimate and doing invoices based off of that. But let's just say, for example, there's been a deposit at some point and you want to lower that balance due because of that deposit, you can do that right here. You can add an attachment here. If you have the signed quote for this, you can add it here. So it's all in the same place. If you have, if you're billing for time, and maybe you have a timesheet that the customer is requesting, anything like that, you can add those attachments to the invoice right here. So now before we send this or save this or anything, I want to show you the options here. And so back in the original settings, whenever we were showing the customize the look and the feel, it all takes you to the same place. So if you this customize look and feel right here, you can do this at the invoice screen. So right here, if you go to customize, this is just the standard of how it looks. You can create a new style or you can edit the current. And again, a lot of recurring themes here. If you go to your list, custom form styles, again, this is where you can see, you can create a new style. And once you do start creating different invoice styles, this is where this list will be. So let's, for the sake of this, let's create a new style here. I'm sorry. So we're going to show this in a different, I don't want to lose that data. So we're just going to do new style invoice, just so you have an idea. This is detailed stuff with the looks and everything, but just to give you an idea of your options. So this is where you can just do some quick template changes. Let's say we want to make it modern. Logo edits, and again, this would be helpful if you way in the beginning is to add your logo. This is where you can do that here. You can quickly add different colors, different fonts, and at any point you can preview it as a PDF, which could be helpful. So you can see what the customer will see, what they won't see, how it'll look. So for the content itself, if you click on these little pencils in each individual section, you'll be able to choose what's shown and what's not shown. So say, for example, so right now in the default setting, your phone number is not being shown. Let's say you want to add that. So you can check that and add your phone number if you'd like. And the reason I had to add it here is because it wasn't put in your general settings for the company. If you had that, all you have to do is check that and it would automatically populate, which of course you can change if you want a different number on there. You can add your address, website. If you want to display shipping, shipping terms, you can do that, of course, as well. You can add a custom field if you want to. In the actual description, you can change if you want how descriptive you want to be with your products or services. A lot of different options there. And then for the emails, you can actually choose what you want your email to say when you're sending the email to the customer. This is the default message that appears. So if you want to change that, if you want to change the greeting, you can do that. So this is probably a pretty important one here in terms of if you want the full details or the summarized details in the email. So, so you have an idea of the full details. It'll have the due date, the terms, the item name, the descriptions, the tax, discount, everything. Summarized, it basically says when it's due, how much is due, this is how you pay it. So you can choose those two options there. You want to choose if you want a PDF attached to the email or just the email itself. The PDF of the invoice that we opened up earlier. And then for the reminder email, you can probably get into this a little bit more detail in a different video, but you have the option to either manually or automatically send reminders. If the invoice is, say it's a week late and you're wondering where payment is, you can send a quick reminder saying, well, basically this, and you can choose what you want to say based off of what you inputted here. So let's go ahead and save this. So let's say, for example, we would have created that test form in that screen there. If we wanted to change, like in this customize screen here, this is where we can quickly, easily choose that. It's not showing up here because I did it in one window and then haven't refreshed, but there's standard, new, and edit. That test style that we created, that would be showing up here as well. You have the option to make it recurring or print and preview it. So once this invoice is created, we can save and send, which will send it to the email, which in this case we don't want to do because, again, this is the middle of the month and we're going to want to send this at the beginning of the month. So we're going to hit this arrow here and actually hit save and close. So now the reason that we were checking that box that said send later was so that, again, let's say we're making a few of these throughout the month and then May 1st hits and we want to send out the invoices that need to be sent. There's a quick way to find all those invoices if you check those send later options on your invoices. So if you go to the arrow here in sales and then go to all sales, there's going to be a filter option. So if you hit filter and then this delivery method right here, have that to send later and apply, then you'll see those invoices that need to be sent, including the one that we just made right here. So you can either, through this screen, you can click on it if you want to, again, make a change or look in detail at the invoice that we just created. And you can send it from that screen as well. Or you can hit this down arrow here and you can send it from right here. And hitting send here, like, we'll just send it to their email, and we can do that again on that May 1st. And we can get into later videos about, you know, receiving payment off of that invoice and things like that. But I would say for now, this is probably a good place to end.